What would you do if the person you trusted most in the world turned out to be your greatest adversary? Imagine waking up one day to discover that the life you thought you were building together was nothing more than an elaborate facade, designed not for love but for control. This is a story of betrayal, resilience, and reclamation, a tale where every whispered promise masked a calculated lie, and every act of kindness hid a sinister motive. As secrets unravel and truths surface, one woman must confront the unthinkable. Her husband didn't just cheat on her, he orchestrated her downfall. But this isn't just about revenge, it's about rising from the ashes stronger than ever. Are you ready to hear how she turned the tables? It was a crisp autumn afternoon in the small coastal town of Seabrook when Karen Carter's world unraveled. She had been sitting at her desk, surrounded by half-finished sketches for her freelance graphic design work, when her phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. The caller ID simply read *Horizon Creative Agency Star. Karen hesitated for a moment before answering, her curiosity outweighing her caution. Mrs. Carter, a professional voice greeted her. This is Daniel Reynolds from Horizon Creative Agency. I wanted to inform you that your husband, William, called yesterday to decline the senior creative director position on your behalf. Karen's heart skipped a beat. I'm sorry, what? Decline the position? On my behalf? Yes, Daniel continued, her tone tinged with confusion. He mentioned that after discussing it with you, you both agreed the role would be too demanding given your personal priorities. In fact, he recommended we consider someone else, Laura Matthews, for the position instead. The name Laura Matthews hit Karen like a freight train. Serena was William's colleague at his architecture firm, someone she had always dismissed as a friendly acquaintance when William casually mentioned their late-night brainstorming sessions or accidentally booked dinner reservations under her name. But now, the pieces began clicking into place with terrifying clarity. I need a moment, Karen stammered, her voice trembling. When exactly did William call? Around 3 p.m. yesterday, Daniel replied sympathetically. I'm so sorry if this is unexpected. Karen ended the call and sat motionless, staring at her phone. Yesterday at 3 p.m., while she'd been volunteering at the local animal shelter, William had been systematically dismantling her chance at independence. Her mind raced through memories of their 2-year marriage, the whirlwind romance, his persistent pursuit, the lavish gestures that had won over her friends and family. All of it felt like a carefully constructed facade now. She grabbed her car keys, her hands shaking as she backed out of the driveway. Suburban streets blurred past as she replayed every red flag she'd ignored, the subtle comments about her demanding work schedule, the concern about her stress levels, the gentle nudges to focus on building their home together. Each memory revealed itself as part of a calculated plan to strip her of her professional identity. As she drove, Karen's thoughts spiraled. How could she have missed the signs? The late nights William claimed were work-related, the sudden insistence that they needed a joint bank account for a simplicity, the way he discouraged her from attending industry events. It all seemed so innocent at the time, but now it felt like a web tightening around her. When Karen pulled into their driveway, her mind was made up. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was a systematic dismantling of her life. And she needed answers, now. As Karen walked through the front door, determination burned within her, but fear also gnawed at the edges of her resolve. The house, once a sanctuary filled with laughter and shared dreams, now felt like a gilded cage. She spotted William pacing in the kitchen, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing emphatically. His confident posture only fueled her anger, each movement a reminder of how seamlessly he deceived her for months. William turned sharply as the door clicked shut behind her, his expression shifting effortlessly from secretive to concerned. Karen, he said smoothly, pocketing his phone. You're home early. The practiced ease of his tone sent chills down her spine. How many times had she mistaken his manipulative charm for genuine affection? Now, standing face to face with him, she saw the cracks in his facade, the cold calculation lurking beneath the surface. "I got a call today," Karen began, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "From Daniel Reynolds at Horizon Creative Agency." She paused, watching his eyes for any flicker of recognition or guilt. For a split second, his confident mask slipped, revealing something darker, a flash of panic quickly masked by feigned confusion. "Horizon Creative Agency," he echoed, leaning casually against the marble countertop. "Why would they be calling you?" The audacity of his lie reignited the simmering anger within her. 2 years ago, she would have never tolerated such blatant deception. Back then, she was Karen Carter, a celebrated graphic designer whose work had been featured in national galleries. But somewhere along the way, William had methodically stripped her of that identity. "You know exactly why they called," as she said quietly, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "You declined a job offer meant for me." His expression shifted to one of gentle concern, a performance so polished it almost fooled her again. "And we talked about this," he said softly, stepping closer. "Your stress levels, the panic attacks." "A single incident," as she interrupted, her voice rising. "One anxiety episode after pulling 3 all-nighters for a major client, and somehow you turned it into a chronic condition that justified dismantling my career." William's jaw tightened, but he recovered quickly. "There must be some misunderstanding," he said smoothly. "You never applied there." Karen clenched her fists, forcing herself to stay calm. 3 weeks ago, as she countered, "While you were supposedly at a conference in Chicago, I interviewed with them. A position you knew nothing about because you've been interfering with my career behind my back." For the first time, William faltered. His eyes narrowed slightly, betraying genuine surprise. "You've been interviewing without telling me?" The absurdity of his indignation almost made her laugh. "Just like you've been sabotaging my career without mine," as she shot back, her voice trembling with fury. Her words hung heavy in the air between them. William studied her carefully, his gaze calculating. Finally, he straightened, his demeanor shifting subtly. "Karen," he said, his tone colder now, "you're being dramatic. I've done everything to make your life easier." "By controlling every aspect of it," as she challenged. "By isolating me from my support network, by making financial decisions that leave me dependent on you." He smirked, a cruel twist of his lips that sent a chill down her spine. "If you want to talk financial decisions," he said mockingly, "let's discuss the joint account I established to simplify our lives. The investments I manage for our future. The mortgage I qualified for, all decisions made for us, not just me." Each word struck like a dagger, exposing the truth she'd refused to see. Every benefit he'd sold her was actually a carefully laid trap. Her former salary, her savings, her professional reputation, all gone, replaced by dependency and isolation. But the worst revelation came when Daniel had mentioned Laura Matthews. "The same Serena whose name appeared on our dinner reservation last month?" Karen asked, her voice dripping with venom. William froze, his confidence wavering. Then, slowly, a smirk spread across his face. "So that's what this is about," he said coolly. "Serena." The casual cruelty of his admission hit her like a physical blow. Not only had he betrayed her emotionally, but he'd actively sabotaged her future to benefit his mistress. The depth of his betrayal left her reeling, struggling to breathe. In that moment, Karen realized the full extent of William's manipulation. He hadn't just cheated, he'd orchestrated a heist of her life. And now, she vowed silently, he would pay. Karen's heart pounded as she stood motionless in the kitchen, staring at William with a newfound clarity. She could feel the weight of his betrayal pressing down on her, but alongside it surged a fierce determination to reclaim her life. In that instant, she resolved to play the long game, not out of weakness, but out of strategy. If William thought he had won, she would let him believe it until the perfect moment to strike arrived. That night, lying beside him in bed, Karen crafted her plan with meticulous precision. Every detail mattered: timing, resources, evidence. She began by transforming their guest room closet into an impromptu command center. Inside an innocuous box labeled *winter linens*, she started assembling her documentation system: photographs of incriminating emails, screenshots of text messages, financial records, and notes detailing every instance of William manipulations. To avoid suspicion, she disguised her evidence gathering as routine housekeeping. "I'm organizing our household files," as she announced the next morning over breakfast, her tone deliberately dull. William barely looked up from his phone, brushing her off with a dismissive, "Whatever you think best, it's your department." His condescension worked in her favor, giving her free rein to operate unnoticed. Her first step was to secure tangible assets. Using her sister's address, she opened a safety deposit box at a credit union where William had no connections. Into it went cash she'd painstakingly accumulated, small amounts purchased during grocery runs, earnings from discrete freelance projects, and proceeds from selling used household items. Each transaction was carefully executed to avoid raising alarms. By the end of the week, she had a modest emergency fund hidden away, a lifeline she hoped would sustain her during the coming battle. Reconnecting with old colleagues proved equally delicate. Karen waited until William was engrossed in a weekend golf tournament before reaching out to Lily, her former creative director. Over coffee at a cafe far from their neighborhood, she steered the conversation toward mutual connections. "Actually, I've been thinking about freelancing again," as she said hesitantly. "Just small projects while I figure things out." Lily's enthusiasm was immediate and genuine. "Are you kidding? Clients still ask about you. The Westfield campaign you led is still referenced in industry meetings." Karen blinked back tears of relief. "Really? I thought everyone would have forgotten me by now." "Impossible," Lily assured her. "Want me to put out some feelers?" "Nothing formal, just letting people know you might be available." Thus began Karen's careful rebuilding of her professional network. Each coffee meeting, each casual lunch, was meticulously planned to avoid detection. She scheduled these interactions during William's standing meetings, kept conversations off their home network, and maintained her outward appearance of a defeated wife. Meanwhile, she documented every piece of evidence under the guise of household management, creating a detailed spreadsheet ostensibly tracking their expenses but secretly mapping every financial account William controlled, including several hidden ones she discovered in his emails. When the time came to sign the divorce papers, Karen did so with a barely perceptible modification to her signature, ensuring she could later claim duress if necessary. William, arrogant in his belief that he had neutralized her, didn't notice. He filed the papers immediately, starting the clock on their dissolution. Under state law, they had precisely 90 days before the divorce would be finalized. With each passing day, Karen expanded her invisible infrastructure. She tracked William's schedule meticulously, noting patterns and creating pockets of time for her preparations. She practiced using public transportation routes that could get her quickly to her sister's home if needed. Important documents, her birth certificate, passport, professional certifications, were gathered and secured off-site. Evenings became a ritual of emotional endurance. She lay beside William, pretending to sleep while her mind worked through contingencies. Mornings were spent preparing his favorite breakfast, smiling blandly when he acknowledged her at all. One evening, as William scrolled through his laptop, he remarked casually, "You're handling this better than I expected." Karen offered a sad smile, her voice tinged with resignation. "What choice do I have? I'm just trying to be practical." He nodded, satisfied with her apparent surrender. "That's wise. A clean break is best for everyone." As he returned to his phone without a flicker of remorse, Karen felt a surge of cold clarity. This man had never loved her. She had been a strategic acquisition, used for her professional connections and discarded when she no longer served his purpose. The realization should have devastated her, but instead, it crystallized her resolve. Patience had become her weapon. Each day of appearing defeated was another day to strengthen her position. Each moment of played submission was an investment in her ultimate liberation. 3 weeks into her invisible campaign, Karen received a text from an unknown number that sent her heart racing. It was Daniel Reynolds, the hiring manager from Horizon Creative Agency, setting up a meeting to discuss her application. The message read, *A meeting tomorrow. Your Horizon application. Urgent opportunity. *. Karen stared at the screen, her pulse pounding in her ears. This was it, the turning point she had been waiting for. With only 30 days remaining before her divorce would be finalized and William and Serena's planned departure to Melbourne looming, she knew this opportunity couldn't have come at a better time. She responded immediately, confirming her availability and requesting the details. The meeting was set for 10 a.m. at a downtown coffee shop, coinciding perfectly with William's weekly executive team meeting. Timing was crucial, and Karen ensured she wouldn't raise any suspicions. She prepared meticulously, finalizing her evidence and rehearsing her approach throughout the night. By morning, she was calm, focused, and dressed in sleek professional attire she had hidden in the back of her closet for months. To William, she vaguely mentioned attending a book club meeting. He barely looked up from his breakfast, dismissing her activities with a patronizing smile. As soon as his car disappeared down the street, she called a rideshare service to take her downtown, avoiding any risk of him spotting her car where it shouldn't be. When Karen arrived at the coffee shop, Daniel was already there, accompanied by an older man she didn't recognize. Daniel greeted her warmly, introducing the man as Martin Sierra Ario. "Martin was quite interested when I told him about your situation," Daniel explained, her handshake firm and supportive. Karen took a deep breath as she placed her portfolio on the table. "What I'm about to share goes beyond interference with a job application," as she began. "I've documented systematic professional sabotage, financial manipulation, and identity fraud." For the next 40 minutes, Karen presented her evidence, emails showing William coordination with Serena to take her position, legal documents he'd had her sign under false pretenses, and financial records demonstrating his deliberate creation of dependency. "This isn't just a domestic dispute," as she concluded. "It's a calculated attempt to destroy my professional standing for personal gain, involving your company through fraudulent representation." Daniel and Martin exchanged glances. "We suspected something wasn't right," Daniel admitted, "but this is beyond what we imagined." "What exactly are you looking for from us, Miss Carter?" Martin asked. Karen laid out her proposal, a senior strategist position that would utilize her skills while allowing her the flexibility to handle her impending legal battles. In exchange, she would provide Horizon with exclusive documentation of how their hiring process had been manipulated, potentially protecting them from future liability. After thoughtful consideration, Martin extended an offer for Director of Strategic Initiatives, a position 2 levels above what William had tried to steal from her. The compensation package would immediately establish her financial independence. "One more thing," Karen added before concluding the meeting. "I need absolute confidentiality until I execute the remainder of my plan." My husband cannot know about this conversation." Both Daniel and Martin agreed without hesitation. As Karen left the coffee shop, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The gears of her plan were finally in motion, and she was ready to reclaim her life. The days following the meeting with Horizon Creative Agency felt like a ticking clock, each moment bringing Karen closer to the culmination of her meticulously crafted plan. She maintained her facade of quiet resignation with William, ensuring he remained oblivious to the storm brewing beneath her calm exterior. Every interaction, every gesture, was calculated to lull him into complacency while she finalized her escape. On the day before their divorce would be finalized, and just one day before William and Serena's scheduled flight to Melbourne, Karen executed her plan with military precision. William had an important client dinner that evening, guaranteeing he wouldn't return home until late. This gave her the perfect window of opportunity. While he was out, a team of movers she'd arranged through her sister efficiently removed the last of her personal belongings from the house. They weren't just taking clothes and keepsakes, they were retrieving original copies of critical documents, sentimental items he dismissed as junk, and, most importantly, the extensive evidence she'd gathered over the past months. Karen supervised the operation, moving methodically through each room to ensure nothing vital was left behind. In the kitchen, she paused by the island where William had slid the divorce papers toward her weeks earlier, his smug expression etched in her memory. She ran her fingers along the sleek marble surface, reclaiming the narrative that had once been stolen from her. This wasn't a defeat, it was a strategic withdrawal. Not an ending, but a calculated new beginning. At precisely 11 p.m., when she knew William dinner would be wrapping up, she sent a single text, *check your email. Goodbye, William. Attached were 3 devastating documents, her counterfiling to his divorce petition, complete with evidence of his fraud, a cease and desist letter from her attorney regarding his unauthorized use of her professional credentials, and a press release from Horizon Creative Agency announcing her appointment as their new Director of Strategic Initiatives. The subject line read simply, "You underestimated me." The response was immediate. William calls began flooding in, first angry, then increasingly desperate as the implications of her countermoves sank in. Karen didn't answer. Instead, she forwarded each voicemail to her attorney as additional evidence of his character. By 8 a.m. the next morning, she walked into Horizon Creative Agency's headquarters for her first day, wearing a confidence that no one could take from her again. By noon, her attorney had successfully filed for an emergency injunction preventing William from leaving the country while their financial matters were being investigated. At 2 p.m., his family's attorney, the same one who had crafted the manipulative prenup, reached out requesting a settlement conference. "He is panicking," her attorney explained. "The evidence you've compiled is damning. His firm's ethics committee has opened an investigation based on your documentation." The courtroom drama unfolded with explosive intensity. During the settlement hearing, Karen's attorney presented a mountain of evidence exposing William's unethical behavior, emails detailing his coordination with Serena, financial records proving his deliberate sabotage, and even recordings of his guarded phone calls. The judge's expression grew increasingly stern as each piece of evidence was introduced. William, once so confident in his control, visibly unraveled under the weight of exposure. His attempts to defend himself fell flat, his lies crumbling like sandcastles against the tide of truth. The final blow came when Karen took the stand. Her testimony was calm yet piercing, each word delivered with precision. She recounted how William had systematically dismantled her career, isolated her from her support network, and orchestrated her financial dependence, all while planning his seamless transition to Serena. When she described the moment she realized the depth of his betrayal, her voice trembled, not with weakness but with the raw emotion of reclaiming her power. The courtroom was silent, save for the occasional gasp from the gallery. Even William's own attorney seemed shaken. By the end of the hearing, the verdict was clear. William conceded to every demand rather than face a public trial that would expose his actions further. The house would be sold, with Karen's full share of equity restored. The financial accounts he'd hidden were divided equitably. Most satisfyingly, his Australian transfer was rescinded pending the conclusion of his firm's internal investigation. Serena, realizing she was tying herself to a sinking ship, disappeared from his life entirely, reportedly pursuing positions at firms far removed from both William and Karen. As Karen signed the final divorce papers with her full, confident signature, no modifications needed this time, she felt the weight of the past year finally lift from her shoulders. Her attorney asked, "What will you do now?" Karen glanced at the marketing campaign spread across her desk, her first major project as director already generating industry buzz. "Live on my terms," as she replied. "Build something meaningful. Remember the lessons without letting them define me." Later that evening, she stood on the balcony of her new apartment, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of possibility. The betrayal had nearly destroyed her, but the woman who emerged from its ashes was stronger, wiser, and irrevocably free. She had reclaimed not just her career or her finances but something far more precious, her future, unbounded and entirely her own. 2 months after the explosive settlement hearing, Karen sat in her new office overlooking the city skyline, reviewing the final settlement agreement. William had conceded to every demand rather than face a public trial that would expose his actions further. The house was being sold, with Karen's full share of equity restored. The financial accounts he had hidden were divided equitably, and most satisfyingly, his Australian transfer had been rescinded pending the conclusion of his firm's internal investigation. Serena, realizing she was tying herself to a sinking ship, disappeared from his life entirely, reportedly pursuing positions at firms far removed from both William and Karen. Karen signed the final divorce papers with her full, confident signature, no modifications needed this time. As she handed them to her attorney, she felt the weight of the past year finally lift from her shoulders. Her attorney asked, "What will you do now?" Karen glanced at the marketing campaign spread across her desk, her first major project as director already generating industry buzz. "Live on my terms," as she replied. "Build something meaningful. Remember the lessons without letting them define me." Later that evening, she stood on the balcony of her new apartment, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of possibility. The betrayal had nearly destroyed her, but the woman who emerged from its ashes was stronger, wiser, and irrevocably free. She had reclaimed not just her career or her finances but something far more precious, her future, unbounded and entirely her own. As Karen settled into her new life, she found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. The betrayal by William had been devastating, but it had also been a catalyst for profound transformation. She realized that the person she had been before, successful, driven, confident, hadn't truly disappeared. She had merely been buried under layers of manipulation and self-doubt. Now, standing on the other side of the storm, she saw herself more clearly than ever before. One evening, as she sat on her balcony with a glass of wine, Karen allowed herself to fully process the emotions she had suppressed during the fight for her freedom. The pain of William's betrayal still lingered, but it no longer consumed her. Instead, she viewed it as a chapter in her story, one that had taught her invaluable lessons about trust, resilience, and the importance of staying true to oneself. She thought about the women she had met along the way: Daniel, who had believed in her potential when others doubted; Lily, who reminded her of her worth; and her sister, whose unwavering support had been a lifeline during her darkest moments. These relationships had reinforced her belief in the power of community and connection. Looking ahead, Karen resolved to build a life rooted in authenticity and purpose. She envisioned herself mentoring young professionals, particularly women navigating male-dominated industries, sharing her story as a testament to the strength that lies within vulnerability. Professionally, she aimed to lead with integrity, using her platform at Horizon Creative Agency to champion ethical practices and innovation. Personally, she committed to nurturing her passions outside of work, traveling, writing, and exploring hobbies she had neglected during her marriage. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the city, Karen smiled softly. She was no longer defined by the pain of her past or the scars of betrayal. Instead, she embraced her identity as a survivor, a woman who had faced unimaginable challenges and emerged stronger, braver, and more determined than ever to live a life of meaning and joy. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, Karen felt ready to embrace whatever it held. If this story of resilience and triumph resonated with you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another chapter of these real-life journeys. Share this video with someone who might need a reminder of their own strength, and let us know in the comments, what's one lesson you'll take away from this story? Your thoughts inspire us to keep bringing you powerful narratives like this one. Thank you for watching. Remember, no matter how tough life gets, there's always a way forward. You just have to believe in your ability to find it. We'll see you again soon with more stories of courage, hope, and transformation. Until then, take care and stay strong.